Thank you for letting me come into your home tonight and tell you why I want you to support Rob Smith as your next Secretary of State. Give you a little bit of background about us. We come from down at Simpson-Rankin County, my family does. I worked my way through high school, worked my way through college, and then I got a master's degree in business at Mississippi College. Been in the real estate business for 32 years, been a realtor, local businessman, and had an accounting office also, so my background's in real estate and in accounting. I served 20 years in the Mississippi Senate and 4 years in the Mississippi House of Representatives. And I wanted you to know during those years I was the only guy in my counties of Rankin, Simpson, and Copiah that stood up in 1982 and voted for education reform in this state. It helped our teachers, set up our retirement, our pay for our teachers. It also helped programs of air conditioning schools later. It also set up the kindergarten program in this state. And again, ladies and gentlemen, I took a very critical vote at a time which I thought was critical for this state, because my father had said to me when I got elected in 1979, give a man a job, give him an education, and you've done the best you can for that person. And I carried that with me my whole legislative career, so I supported education 24 years, not just an election year. And I'm proud to see where we've come from 1980 and where we are today, not only in our educational system, but in our junior college system and also in our IHLs, our institutions of higher learning, because of that commitment to education. I think it's critical that you know that. I also think it's critical that you see the 4-lane highway program in this state that was deemed as one of the best economic development tools around. I was, again, in the counties I represented in the Senate, the only House or Senate member that stood up and voted for the Education Reform Act, but also was the only one that voted for the AHEAD program, which set up the 4-lane highway systems in this state. I tell you that to tell you why it's critical that you know that. We've got a Toyota plant, we've got a Nissan plant, we've got economic development on the Gulf Coast. That just didn't happen overnight. We have new industry coming in this state because our workforce are getting better trained in the school system and also through the junior college work training program that we have, which are programs that we supported for. All those programs were educational programs or economic development programs. So when you're in North Mississippi up there, you got to realize again that Rob Smith was the only guy that voted for 4-lane highways in this state from those 4 counties that I represented in an election year, because I knew highways created economic development. They create economic development. So that's something I wanted you to know in education and also in the terms of highway construction in this state. I also wanted you to know, by working my way through high school and through college, I know how difficult it is for working parents to make sure that their kids get a quality education. I know how difficult it is because I have 2 daughters that went to the public schools here and also went to the community college and also to Ole Miss. It was my eldest daughter went to Ole Miss. I'm a state graduate, so that was a little difficult to have your daughter go to Ole Miss. But I do think that our institutions here in Mississippi are great institutions. They provide a great opportunity for children to have a great education, opportunity for jobs in this state. I look back at my my background in accounting, and I've joined the Rotary Club, and the Rotary Club has 4 basic things that they say in terms of what you should do when you look at issues. In the Secretary of State's race, the first thing they say, is it truth? Is it the truth? And so when you hear all this campaign issues out there, I hope that you as a voter out there say, is it the truth? What we do for this state and what you're hearing from advertisement, is it the truth? And I think if you take that and it is, and does it benefit the masses, I think that's another thing that our Rotarian organization says. Does it benefit those that we're supposed to be being involved with on issues? I look back on the Secretary of State's race when I announced, and I laid out the issues that I see as important. I said I would guarantee safe and secure elections, and I make that promise to you today. My father said if you make a promise to someone and you shake a man's hand, even if it costs you money, you do it. And so I'm making that promise to you as your Secretary of State. If you elect me as your Secretary of State, we will have safe and we will have secure elections. But I want to tell you, we will partner with our circuit clerks and we will partner with our election commissioners. That's the backbone of the election process in the state of Mississippi. And if you leave those elected officials out of the process, then you're going to have a chaotic type election reform. So I've asked the governor's group when I've been around campaigning to say to the governor, please call a special session, bring your circuit clerks in and bring your election commissioners in for a 2-day program. Let them tell you, Governor, how to run elections in Mississippi. And if the governor will do that, then he could call a 1-day special session of the legislature and you would have election reform in Mississippi. And I say this is critical because we have a presidential primary next year in 2008 and we have municipal elections in 2009. I don't want to be in federal court when those elections are supposed to take place and the Mississippians do not get to participate in our presidential elections. So I think it's critical that if we want election reform in this state, the key comes in is to get your circuit clerks and get your election commissioners into a meeting and let them tell you, because they are the ones that have to run elections on the local level. And they'll tell you how to run elections in Mississippi, and they'll tell you how to make them safe and secure. And if we don't do that, then as your next Secretary of State, I will ask the circuit clerks and the election commissioners to come in and set that task force up, and we will guarantee you safe and secure elections in Mississippi. Another area that the Secretary of State's office has to deal with is $50-something million that we deal with on 16 section lands. Again, I'm not going to micromanage elected officials, but I'm going to hold those elected officials accountable. I set up from day one when I announced that we would hold annual meetings for our elected committee folks down on the county level for your school boards. Each county that manages 16 section land is managed by those individuals who are elected to the school board. So I want to bring those folks in. They're good people just like you and I. They work, they have children, they run for public office, but they may not have the knowledge of timber leases or oil and gas leases, or they may not know how to do their finances better in that capacity as a school board member. So as your Secretary of State, if you elect Rob Smith as your Secretary of State, I will guarantee you we will train those individuals annually, just like we did with the Justice Court judges years ago. We will set up a program. We will teach them how to better manage timber leases, how to understand better about oil and gas leases, and how to invest their money on behalf of children in this state. We will do that annually. And we will say to them, we will give you copies of our leases. We'll give you a copy of what Mississippi Forestry Commission or the private forestry folks tell you. We'll bring in the oil and gas specialists. We'll bring in bank folks. We'll bring in financial folks to teach these elected officials how to be better at the job that they were elected to. That will make sure that the children then are able to have better return on their monies for 16 section lands to the counties. Then the key comes in, though, we will make sure that they are held accountable in the performance of their duties. And if they're not, then we'll have the state auditor visit with them and find out exactly, why they're not doing the best job to raise the revenue that they were supposed to be doing for the children of Mississippi. I also focused on tax sale land, and I come up with an idea of setting up a rural development bank so that people don't lose their land from back taxes. I think it's critical that this state set up a program and a philosophy of how to keep people from losing their land at tax sales. And we've come up with an idea that will benefit the counties and also will benefit families from letting their lands be sold at tax sales. And we have that, we'll present that to the legislature. It's called the Rural Development Bank. So therefore, individuals will not lose their land at tax sales, but the counties will also then be able to access the revenue from this rural bank so that the counties will be paid for those back taxes. It's a great program, a great way to set up the ability to bring additional revenue to the counties and to the cities, along with the Secretary of State having to deal with tax sale lands. But the key comes in is not allowing people to lose their land at tax sales, and that's something the Secretary of State's office will be working on. Give me the opportunity to serve you. If you're a veteran out there, I'm asking you to support me. I wrote the Purple Heart car tag. I wrote the Veterans One-Stop Center. If you're a school teacher, I'm asking your support for Rob Smith as Secretary of State, because we're the one that stood up for education, not just an election year, but 24 years while I served in the state Senate. If you're a highway contractor, or if you're in the area of the sand and gravel or the equipment business, we're the guy that stood up and voted for the highway program when nobody else did in my district. If you're out there and you're in the hospital area, look at what we also did when Governor Musgrove and them called into tort reform. We also supported the idea of making sure that we had our hospitals open. We also supported the swing bed concept for our hospitals, so that salvaged our hospitals in rural Mississippi. So I'm asking you out there today, look at my qualifications, work my way through high school, through college, and through a master's degree. Raised 2 daughters by myself since they were 5 and 3. I've tried to do the best I can to represent you as your senator in the House of Representatives. I will guarantee you safe and secure elections in Mississippi, and I'll guarantee you got to ask this question before you go off the air tonight. Why do people raise $700,000 to run for a $90,000 job? Doesn't make sense. We've tried to run this on our own efforts and our own money. We've only had $32,000, so we're asking you today that we will be a Secretary of State for the people. We're not out here. I just wish that people would not have to raise that kind of money to run for public office, because we remove good people from running from public office. So on November the 6th, I ask you to support Rob Smith as your next Secretary of State, and I promise you I'll do you a good job. Thank you.